The following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the TFangy coming to you with what will hopefully be a quick and successful review, and today we're going to be taking a look at a Transformers action figure I've been wanting to review for quite some time, and it is the Transformers Age of the Primes Voyager class Junkion Wreck-Gar. So this is based off of the version of Wreck-Gar that was featured in the Transformers animated cartoon back in 2008. He was voiced by Weird Al Yankovic in that cartoon series, and for his official modern, quote-unquote, updated/upgraded Chug action figure, the Age of the Primes version of Wreck-Gar, instead of being an entirely brand new mold, he is a repaint of the Transformers Legacy Evolution Junkion Trash Master, with a new head sculpt being the only newly sculpted part, art based on the head sculpt that he had in the animated cartoon. There's a close-up of the head sculpt there on the box art on the side of the box. You've got an image of his alt mode of a garbage truck. Again, his robot mode there on that side of the box. On this side of the box, you've got a section of the poster image for the Age of the Primes line featuring the 13 Primes. So, yeah, if you already have Legacy Junkion Trash Master, the only thing new to Wreck-Gar, apart from his paint job, is the new head sculpt. So, he does, even though it's not advertised on the box, he does have the same gimmick where you can combine him with the deluxe class weaponizer Junkions from the Legacy Evolution line, and you can do an orange torso version of the Dinosaur Junkion Combiner Junkosaurus and you can now use Wreck-Gar in place of Trash Master if you so desire. So here's Wreck-Gar in his robot mode and his alt mode, and again he has the same weapon features as same exact weapons as Trash Master. Again, nothing new compared to the figure that he's repainted and retooled from apart from his new head sculpt. Only difference is the paint job. He transforms back and forth between robot mode and garbage truck mode in just 15 steps, and he has the same gimmick where his robot mode claw weapon can open and shut. In the back of the garbage truck can be a quote-unquote working trash compactor, which it transforms as the jaw, the mouth for the Junkosaurus Combiner. So, for the sake of time, I'm not gonna combine Wreck-Gar into the Junkion Combiner Junkosaurus. I tried to do that with Trash Master, if I remember correctly, when he came out. So I'm going to just concentrate here on Wreck-Gar himself. So without further delay, let's get him out of the box and take a close look at him in his robot mode. Alright, and so here is Wreck-Gar transformed into his robot mode, and again, as I said, he is the exact same mold as Legacy Trash Master, with the only newly sculpted part being his robot mode head. The only difference is the paint job. Unlike Trash Master, who is primarily rusty reddish orange, Wreck-Gar is now a very bright, vibrant neon orange or citrus orange, which was the shade of orange paint that he had in the animated cartoon. And yeah, I'm really enjoy how Wreck-Gar's head sculpt came out. It's not entirely accurate to his appearance in the Transformers animated cartoon, but compared to the other characters we've gotten from both the Legacy and Age of the Primes line from Transformers animated, which were brand new molds, Wreck-Gar was the characters we got before Wreck-Gar from animated in the Legacy line were the animated versions of Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, and Owl, and the only character from animated who was a repaint and retool of a previous release character was, I believe, Fugitive Wasp, but it made sense since he and Bumblebee shared the same body design in Transformers animated, so it made sense for Wasp to be a retool of the animated Bumblebee figure. But a lot of fans and collectors were kind of hoping that the trend of characters from Transformers animated being given entirely brand new molds was going to continue past Bumblebee, Prowl, and Optimus Prime, and we wouldn't get characters taking the same path as Wasp, where Hasbro just repainted and retooled existing molds to make characters from Transformers animated without going the extra mile of designing entirely brand new molds. Because the reason for that mentality is, back in 2008, during the OG Transformers animated line, all the action figures in that line were brand new molds. None of them were repaints or retools from figures that were recycled from previously released Transformers lines just to fit with the aesthetic and the art design of Transformers Animated. So it was really a very thin. So it was a lot of excitement for fans and collectors back in 2008 when Transformers Animated was on the shelves of retail stores, buying entirely brand new molds which were accurate to the character's appearance in Transformers Animated. One thing that made Transformers Animated infamous and well received by most Transformers fans, and made the action figures of Transformers Animated one of the best celebrated lines of Transformers action figures, was that the characters in Transformers Animated, even though they had some parts of their vehicle modes making up their robot modes, the vehicle modes for most of the Transformers Animated characters disappeared when they would transform into their robot modes, and vice versa. There almost wouldn't be any robot mode parts to the Transformers Animated characters when they would transform into their alt modes. And the fact that the designers at Hasbro and Takara Tomy were able to pull off action figures that mimicked the art style of Transformers Animated, where there was almost no alt mode parts in robot mode, and vice versa. It really appealed to Transformers fans and collectors. Now, the reason why I just said a moment ago that Transformers Animated was one of the last well-received and celebrated lines of Transformers action figures by Transformers fans and collectors, that's because at the time in 2008, the economy in the United States was starting to go south, but it hadn't quite gone south yet, and it hadn't quite affected Hasbro and the budget they had available to them when designing brand new Transformers action figures. And Transformers Animated was one of the last lines of Transformers action figures before Hasbro started to decrease the overall size of Transformers action figures, and at the same time made the prices of Transformers action figures go upward. So yeah, the OG Transformers Animated line of Transformers action figures was one of the last lines of Transformers action figures before Transformers figures started to get downsized, and the prices at the same time just started to skyrocket upward. The very last line, I believe, of Transformers action figures before the overall size of the action figures started to go down and the prices started to increase, I believe it was I think it might have been the Transformers Reveal the Shield line, which was released at the end of 2010 / the beginning of 2011. The next line of Transformers action figures released after Reveal the Shield was Transformers Dark of the Moon, and that was the first line in which the overall size of Transformers action figures was downsized. It could be seen when people compared the official Dark of the Moon deluxe class figure of Bumblebee with the deluxe figures released in Revenge of the Fallen and the first movie. The deluxe figures from Dark of the Moon were much smaller, but at the same time the prices increased by about $1 to $2 back in 2011, and so Transformers Animated was one of the last lines of Transformers action figures released during the glory days of Transformers action figures, in which the overall size, the quality, and the overall and the price, along with the price tag, and you really felt like you were getting your money's worth when buying the Transformers action figures from the Transformers Animated line. And for some special size comparisons, here is Age of the Prime's animated Voyager class Wreck-Gar, with the figure he's repainted and retooled from Legacy Evolution Junkion Trashmaster. And as you can see, apart from the head sculpt, yeah, the only difference is the paint job. I apologize if I keep repeating that, but I'm emphasizing it just to point out to anyone hoping that maybe there might be more retooled parts comparing Wreck-Gar to Trashmaster than just the robot mode heads. Unfortunately, no. Apart from the robot mode heads, everything else is the exact same thing. So if you wanted to do now that Trashmaster has an action figure that's mold mates with him, if you wanted to, you could part swap parts between Wreck-Gar and Trashmaster, and you can you can mix and match parts between them if you want them to be amalgamations of each other. And on the back of Wreck-Gar's box, it shows him holding the weapon like this instead of like it is with Trashmaster, where you've got the Trash Compactor Claw, which is Junkosaurus's mouth being a claw weapon that looks like it's extended from his arm. On the back of the box, the reason why Wreck-Gar is being held in the reverse direction and having these two dagger blades pointing forward is because that was the weapons that his OG animated figure came with. They were a pair of like electronic shockers that looked almost like this. I don't know the exact terminology for it, but for a special size comparison, here is the Age of the Primes update chug version of animated Wreck-Gar with the OG Transformers animated 2008 Voyager class Wreck-Gar figure. So yeah, here I still have in my Transformers collection all of the animated figures I bought back in 2008. I am never going to get rid of my Transformers animated action figures. And they, as I said, Transformers animated, the OG figures from released in 2008, they were one of the last lines of Transformers action figures where the quality of Transformers still felt top-notch and didn't and the you really felt like you were getting your money's worth when you were buying the action figure. So the OG version of animated Wreck-Gar, he was an average Voyager class-sized action figure from the animated line back in 2008. He was, I believe, one of the taller Voyager figures, and believe it or not, animated Wreck-Gar was not the largest Voyager class figure to be released in the animated line. I believe the title for overall largest Voyager class action figure from the Transformers animated line might have been Blitzwing. But yeah, he is a whole head. It amazes me that even though I'm holding them up in the air, I have them floating in the air at the exact same height that they would be standing. Their feet would be standing on if they were on a solid surface. So it amazes me that the OG animated Wreck-Gar figure is a whole head taller than the Legacy Trash Master mold. And so just comparing one garbage truck Transformers figure with another Transformers figure, comparing the Age of the Primes version of animated Wreck-Gar with his OG animated Wreck-Gar figure from 2008, it's not a fair size comparison, but it shows you just how much smaller the average size of Voyager class figures is in the decade of the 2020s compared to the decade of the 2000s. So I guess this video is kind of a double review because I'm just showing off the OG animated Wreck-Gar figure, but if you look here around Wreck-Gar's legs, as you can see, they are solidly built. There is some hollowness inside the leg. Eggs where the robot mode feet are stored, but it's only and just enough clearance for the heel spurs here to go in. So Wreck-Gar's legs are solidly built, and if I can rotate his bicep out of the way, as you can see right here, the arms have no hollowness to them. This T-shaped egg is there so the arms can plug for where the arms store into place when you transform animated Wreck-Gar into his alt mode. He is very top heavy when he is standing on a solid surface due to the backpack just wanting him to fall backward, and unfortunately the trash collecting arms, you can have them folded down like this if you want, but they don't really offer Wreck-Gar any much stability in robot mode, and if you have them pointing downward, Wreck-Gar just ends up falling back anyway. So normally if I display Wreck-Gar on a shelf, I have him leaning slightly forward so that his backpack doesn't weigh him down. And the only quality control my copy of animated Wreck-Gar has is that the joint that keeps the arm attached to his shoulder on the right side arm, it's always been loose ever since the day I first bought him back in 2008. But in the animated cartoon Wreck-Gar, he had a pair of electricity type weapons, and they store here inside the top section of the garbage truck collection bin, and they've been wedged in there for a very long time, so I don't want to pull them out. But what you would do is, if you look right here on Wreck-Gar's wheels on his arms, one of the pegs is almost level with the hubcap, while one is indented, and that's because the wheels here on the upper wheels here on Wreck-Gar's lower arms, which sit right at his elbows, when you take his weapons out of his backpack, you plug them here on his arms, and then he has a pair of electricity weapons similar to the stingers that the animated version of Bumblebee had, and also animated Ratchet's electrical weapons. weapons, and it's been so long since I slid this thing, the slider's actually stuck on here. So I have to pause the video for a moment. Alright, and so in order to get them unstuck, I did have to pull the electric weapons for Wreck-Gar out of the storage bin. So having the Age of the Primes figure, holding the claw weapon that came with Trashmaster in this direction, it mimics the dual electronic weapons that Wreck-Gar's OG animated figure came with. They are designed to plug into the upper wheels on his arms because his hands aren't sculpted to have a 5mm peg on them, which is standard for most Transformers action figures across all Transformers lines, going all the way back to Transformers Generation 1. And that's one thing that made the animated figures, to make them cartoon accurate. Hasbro and Takara Tomy, the designers designed the hands to have opening fingers and hands, and because the Autobots in Transformers Animated didn't have any actual weapons, they just used the tools built into them as substitute weapons whenever they would combat the Decepticons. And so because of that, almost no action figure from the Transformers Animated line, a vast majority of them, they don't have the standard 5mm fist hands, which would allow 5mm weapons to plug into them. But yeah, there's a size comparison of Age of the Primes Wreck-Gar with his OG animated Wreck-Gar. And if there's one gripe I have with the Age of the Primes version of Wreck-Gar, I know that that Hasbro is on a much tighter budget now in the current decade of the 2020s compared to the 2000s. But if you look on the back of animated Wreck-Gar's robot mode head, he has a slot there that's clear blue plastic, and it's done so that if you shine a bright enough light through the back of his head, he does have working light piping on there. And for the Age of the Primes version of animated Wreck-Gar, when you look at the back of his head, yeah, it's completely hollowed out. So the head is the one newly sculpted part that Age of the Primes Wreck-Gar has to distinguish himself from Trashmaster. And yes, Trashmaster does technically also have a head that's hollowed out in the back, but I kind of wish that the one retooled part that Hasbro gave the new updated version of animated Wreck-Gar, I kind of wish they would have at least acknowledged the fact that the animated action figures back in 2008 didn't have any hollowed parts to them at all. And so, yeah, that's one major gripe I have with Wreck-Gar, is that his head is not made out of solid plastic, unlike the OG animated Wreck-Gar figure. And for those of you wondering why Wreck-Gar has this little antenna on the side of him, Wreck-Gar was brought to life on Earth by the Allspark from a pile of junk. And so his head is actually supposed to be either an old computer screen or an old television screen that was brought to life by the Allspark. And so that's the design why the animated version of Wreck-Gar has this boxy head sculpt, because his head is comprised of either an old television screen or an old computer monitor from I believe either the late 90s or mid 2000s, before flat screen computers and flat screen televisions started to replace box shaped TVs and computers. But yeah, there's a comparison of Age of the Primes Wreck-Gar with the OG animated Wreck-Gar figure. So, like I said, if you already have Trashmaster, articulation is the same with Wreck-Gar as it is on Trashmaster, due to the head being the only new sculpted part. A lot of articulation in the head, arms. There is a waist swivel, but depending on if you have... the figure does have a waist swivel, but if you have the side skirts and the backpack in this configuration that I like to keep it in which I also do for Trashmaster, then the waist articulation is limited. A lot of articulated joints in the legs. Part of it has to do with the gimmick of the mold, the original Trashmaster version of this mold being able to be broken down, taken apart, and form the Junkosaurus Junkion Combiner. But yeah, comparing Age of the Primes animated Wreck-Gar with his OG figure, a lot of the paint job, the designers did manage to stay faithful to how Wreck-Gar originally looked. He does have the metallic blue on the windows and the knee pads, they're a reference to the metallic gray and the black knee pads that Wreck-Gar's OG animated figure had. And I can't remember where Wreck-Gar's Autobot logo is on here. I think it's almost in the same spot as Trashmaster, and it becomes hidden in robot mode. But the same is true for animated Wreck-Gar, the 2008 OG animated Wreck-Gar figure. The one Autobot logo that he has on him, it becomes hidden in his robot mode. Oh, it's on the side of the truck cab of his garbage truck mode, and the truck cab, as you can see, it folds away inside his backpack when he transforms into robot mode. The animated version of Wreck-Gar, he is a shell former armor where the upper half of his garbage truck mode is primarily formed from his backpack. So if you were to take the backpack off, you could almost, mind you, form the garbage truck mode. But the wheels on his arms are the back wheels for the garbage truck mode. So yeah, he is kind of a shell former, the OG animated Wreck-Gar figure. So depending on if you like Transformers that are shell formers, where the vehicle mode is just a shell that sits on the back of the figure, then in that regard, the updated Age of the Primes version of animated Wreck-Gar has the OG figure beat in that it's not a shell former. But yeah, apart from the hollowed out head, I really enjoy how the figure came out. Would have I preferred the figure to be an original mold instead of being a repaint and retool of Legacy Trashmasters? That way it could have come out looking more like the OG animated Wreck-Gar figure. I'll be honest with you, yes, I would have preferred if and when we finally got an updated version of animated Wreck-Gar, I would have preferred it to be an entirely brand new mold, not a repaint and a retool of a previously released Transformers action figure. But I can kind of see why the designers at Hasbro and Takara Tomy felt that animated Trashmaster, he kind of sort of could be used a second time as an updated version of animated Wreck-Gar. So that's pretty much all there is to say about him in robot mode. So let's get Wreck-Gar transformed into his alt mode and wrap up the review. Alright, and so here is Wreck-Gar transformed into his alt mode of a garbage truck. And because the robot mode head becomes hidden underneath the roof of the cab section, in garbage truck mode, even more so than robot mode, animated Age of the Primes Wreck-Gar is a straight up repaint of Legacy Evolution Trashmaster. So yeah, instead of being rusty red, the mold has now been done in bright orange. And so if you wanted to part swap the parts of Wreck-Gar and Trashmaster that can disassemble and have a garbage truck that's half rusty red, half neon orange, then you can do so with both of these. If you want to distinguish them from each other, you can display the trash collecting lifting arms in different positions if you desire to do so. Oh, and of course the claw works in garbage truck mode as well as the entrance to the trash compactor built into the truck, which doubles as the mouth for Junkosaurus. So if you wanted to, you could use animated Wreck-Gar as Junkosaurus' torso instead of Trashmaster. The one Autobot logo that Wreck-Gar has here is on the driver's side door of his garbage truck mode, and that's a reference to the garbage truck mode for his OG animated figure. So here is the 2008 OG animated Wreck-Gar transformed into his garbage truck mode. The only Autobot logo he has is this silver Autobot logo here on the driver's side door of his garbage truck mode. My copy of animated Wreck-Gar has a fatal quality QC issue where this side of the driver's side of Wreck-Gar's cab section doesn't want to clip in place properly. On the passenger side, the cab section clips in place properly, but on this side, ever since I got the figure back in 2008, it's never wanted to clip into place properly. Honestly, I have no idea why it has never wanted to stay clipped in place properly, but when I try to force it, it just unclips itself. So oh yeah, that's just something I've had to live with ever since I got this thing. This copy, Wreck-Gar was one of the more sought after figures from the animated line, and this copy that I added to my collection, it's the only version I ever saw at the store. One feature of Wreck-Gar is that there's buttons here on the OG animated figure, and so the trash collecting arms, there's two little buttons here on the back. You don't have to use the buttons, you can lift them up by your fingers if you wanted to, but yeah, the forklift arms, or trash collecting arms, they are workable, and they're spring loaded, so you can have Wreck-Gar pick up and lift an actual dumpster off the ground if you desire to do so. So, because of my copy of Wreck-Gar having that QC issue of the cab not connecting in place properly, I like to leave the arms downward when Wreck-Gar is in garbage truck mode. Oh, but that's just a personal preference. Looking at him from a glance, the OG animated Wreck-Gar figure, another YouTube user said this back in 2008 when Wreck-Gar was first released, but Wreck-Gar's OG animated figure, if you were to give him a passing glance, he does look like a toy garbage truck at most, but because he doesn't have any visual robot mode parts from the sides, the back, or the front of him, you probably wouldn't know he was a Transformer unless someone told you he was, especially considering that if you have the trash collecting arms lowered down, the Autobot logo also is hidden in garbage truck mode. The only robot mode parts Wreck-Gar has are on the bottom of him, and where you can see his robot mode head and his robot mode hands. Hands there. In that regard, technically the Age of the Primes version of animated Wreck-Gar has the OG figure beat in being more of a robot in disguise, in the sense that there's more robot mode parts hidden from view in garbage truck mode compared to this figure. But in terms of being a more Earth-looking garbage truck mode, the OG animated Wreck-Gar figure is a slightly more realistic-looking garbage truck than the Legacy Trashmaster mold is. But yeah, I do love how they reference the OG figure by having the only Autobot logo Wreck-Gar has being on the driver's side door of his alt mode. That did change, and Wreck-Gar did end up getting putting an Autobot logo on his robot mode chest when he was during his appearance in the third season of the Transformers animated cartoon, when he finally came back and teamed up with Sari and a group of Autobots. One of the reasons why I believe they didn't do that, put the Autobot logo on Wreck-Gar's robot mode chest here on his OG action figure, is because flipping the head back out, if they had done the Autobot logo on Wreck-Gar's robot mode chest, it would have ended up upside down on the front bumper of his garbage truck mode. Oh, and I guess they didn't like the idea of the Autobot logo ending upside down in Wreck-Gar's alternate mode. So yeah, this has been, the wheels do roll fairly well. I do love how the tires are actually sculpted out of black plastic, and they actually made the hubcaps done in silver paint jobs. I don't remember off the top of my head if that's how Wreck-Gar's wheels looked in the animated cartoon. On his OG figure, the animated Wreck-Gar infamously was one of the first Voyager-class Transformers in which the hubcaps were on the tires weren't painted, and they were just unpainted black plastic. This became common sight throughout the 2010s as the quality of Transformers started to go down. There were Transformers whose wheels were just all black wheels without any tires or hubcap paint apps to give the actual appearance of hubcaps and tires making up the wheels. But yeah, I do enjoy how this figure turned out. So this has been my review of the Transformers Age of the Primes Voyager class animated version of Wreck-Gar. Considering the fact that Hasbro and Takara used the Legacy Trashmaster mold, for what they did, depending on how you look at it, it's a figure you'll either completely love or completely hate. But in terms of being a proper update of animated Wreck-Gar, no, unfortunately it's not entirely a true updated version of the OG animated Wreck-Gar action figure, which looks more like an Earth garbage truck than a Cybertronian. It looks more like a modern-day garbage truck that you'd see in a city going around collecting trash, while the Legacy Trashmaster mold, it's a garbage truck that looks like it's from the Mad Max franchise, where it's a post-apocalyptic looking garbage truck. So For the final proverbial question of the review, do I recommend getting the Age of the Primes animated Voyager class garbage truck version of Wreck-Gar and adding it to your Transformers collection? I only recommend getting this mold if you're a fan of the Legacy Trashmaster mold, and also if you're a fan of the animated version of Wreck-Gar and you missed out on the OG figure, then I would recommend getting this figure. But if you have the OG Transformers animated version action figure of Wreck-Gar that Hasbro released back in 2008, and if you also have Legacy Trashmaster, then Age of the Primes animated Wreck-Gar can be somewhat of an easy pass. But one of the main motivators for me to get this figure and add it to my Transformers collection is the sheer minute number of garbage truck Transformers that I have in my Transformers collection. I can't think off the top of my head, apart from these 3 action figures here, if I do have any more Transformers action figures that have a garbage truck for an alternate mode. I believe no. I think these 3 action figures might be it. This is my collection of Transformers action figures that have a garbage truck for an alternate mode. A garbage truck's an alt mode that most Transformers characters Hasbro never even considered having until, I believe, animated Wreck-Gar was created in 2008. Before his appearance in the animated cartoon in 2008, most of the Junkions, not just Wreck-Gar, but the Junkions, Hasbro tried to go with the theme they did back in the Transformers Generation 1 movie, where the Junkions have primarily transform into motorcycles, and they look like post-apocalyptic motorcycles you'd see from the Mad Max franchise. But yeah, considering the fact that they decided to just take the Legacy Trashmaster mold and you do it for animated Wreck-Gar, I do enjoy how the figure came out overall. And if you wanted to, of course, you can display this version of Wreck-Gar besides Transformers Generation 1 Wreck-Gar, and you can treat him as a separate character from the other from Generation 1 Wreck-Gar, and you can have Trashmaster not be the only garbage truck Junkion in your Transformers collection. So thank you guys all so much. Thank you to all my friends and subscribers for your continued support. This has been the TFangy. This has been my review of the Transformers Age of the Primes Voyager class animated Wreck-Gar figure. I highly recommend you get this figure if you're a fan of Transformers animated, if you're a fan of Wreck-Gar, and if you're a fan of the Legacy Trashmaster mold. While the figure itself is not entirely a true faithful update to animated Wreck-Gar, it is a pretty fantastic looking Transformers action figure in its own right, I personally believe. So thank you guys all so much, and until next time, you guys, please remember, collecting is a lifelong hobby. As long as you enjoy it for the rest of your life. And until next time, you guys, please remember to stay safe, stay healthy, transform, and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.